Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's History Bites. Firstly, to apologise to everyone trying to watch this live on YouTube. YouTube's having a bit of an issue, so we are currently live on Facebook and we'll upload it for you on YouTube later. Anyhow, tonight we are on with the mythology of death and the underworld. Death is something that comes to all people. It's something our ancestors have tried to explain as to how it came into the world and why it happens. The gods of death therefore have their own personalities and they often have their own realms. The realms themselves are largely huge areas divided into segments. This is most popularly suggested by Dante in his Inferno, where he details the several different realms of the underworld. Anyhow, what we're looking at is the gods of death themselves. What we have in this aspect is that we have different gods of underworld and gods of death themselves. In the Greek mythology, Thanatos is the god of death. He's the one who brings people to the river Styx and onwards into the underworld. Hades is the lord of the underworld. People often get the two confused, as Hades is the most well-known of all of them. The Greeks also explain how death came to be in the world, which happens when Pandora opens the box and releases all the evils into the world. Various other cultures have it as an angry deity will unleash it upon mankind in punishment for something that they've done. Other mythologies have it the similar sort of way, in that it is an accident that brings death and destruction into the world. Another thing that we have when we look at underworlds is that there are always these several different realms available to people. To look at the Greek area again, the realm of Hades, you have the fields of Elysium, you have Tartarus. There are different areas for everybody to go. One of the more famous ones is the Viking model, where the warriors slain in battle in their great glory will go on to Valhalla, drinking with Odin and the rest of the gods until the dawn of Ragnarok and the end of time. In Viking mythology, if you are unlucky enough to die of illness or old age, it is the cold and empty depths of hell ruled over by Loki's daughter Hela, which is where you will end up, which explains why the Vikings would far prefer to die in battle. It's something that we see quite a lot with the mythology, is that warriors will always have their own realm. It probably helps going into battle knowing that you're going to somewhere better than everybody else. The underworld itself as well can be visited by real people. There are several examples of heroes who entered the underworld and managed to come back unscathed. Notably, it's Heracles, Orpheus, Odysseus, and Aeneas. They each go in there to ask Hades for something or to seek advice from those inhabiting the underworld. For instance, Odysseus is able to talk to Achilles, who's been there for a long time, and escape with the knowledge that Achilles has imparted to him. I want to take a moment just now to look at the Egyptian version of death in the underworld. The Egyptians, as I've said several times in the mythological lectures, the Egyptians are different. They approach death in a completely different way to a lot of other cultures. While it's not necessarily something to be celebrated, they have a very interesting view of it, in that the living will guide the dead to the underworld. Their god of the underworld is Osiris. He is a god who's quite unique in that he dies to become king of the underworld. And he guarded his realm initially only for the Egyptian kings, who were allowed access to the fields of their Osiris. Eventually, this ended up being opened out to everybody as Egyptian culture grew, expanded, and anyone who was anybody and who could afford the map could get into the realm of Osiris. When you go to the museums and you see the Egyptian coffins with all hieroglyphs writing scribbled all over them, or you see images of walls of Egyptian tombs, those are all details on how to get into the underworld and spells to allow your body to breathe, live, and act as you would do in life in the underworld. So they have a very, very different view of death and the underworld realms from the Egyptian society. Arguably, it's the gods of the death and the underworld who wield the most power in all mythology. They have an ever-increasing realm. People are always coming into it, so they have to have the space for these people to be. And arguably, these gods of the underworld are much better at their jobs than the likes of Zeus and Thor, who are always dropping thunderbolts or messing up human relations. Because have you ever seen a zombie escape into the real world? The day we do is when we know Hades has lost the plot and relinquished his job. Anyhow, that's everything that we have in store for you tonight. Join us next week for the final one in the mythology series, when we will be looking at the end of the world scenarios across the globe. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying what's going on, please subscribe to my page, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you and good night.